Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, Ms. Stamen.
Mr. Ayers.
Here.
Mrs. Brockman. Here. Mr. Canwisher.
Here.
Mrs. Kunkel. Dr. Wagley.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Here.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any questions regarding this meeting's agenda? If not, I will take a motion.
I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Mr. Canwisher to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mission statement. It is a vision of the Pleasant Valley Community School District to provide the finest academic and extracurricular programs in the state. Not in some things, but in everything. Not for some students, but for all students. Welcome to our guests this evening. If you would like to address the board on a non-agenda item, now would be your opportunity to do so. All you have to do is come up to the podium, state your name, your capacity within the district, and you will be allowed 3 minutes to discuss what you want to discuss. Remember, since it's a non-agenda item, we will not be able to comment on it, but we do hear you. If you are going to make a comment, you will be limited to 3 minutes, as I said, and just be careful if you are going to mention, that we ask that you not mention any names for confidentiality purposes. Having said that, is there anybody who would like to come up and address the board on a non-agenda item? Yes.
My name's Gina Kakavis. I work for the AEA, and then I also have children in the district. So I have some handouts.
Okay.
I don't know if I have enough.
That's okay.
We can make.
You can always be-
Okay.
Good.
There should be enough for all the board members, for sure.
We'll make sure they have it. Just give them to them. We can share.
I can always email you more, Jeff. Good evening. My name is Gina Kakavis. My husband and I currently live in LeClaire with our 2 children who attend Bridgeview Elementary. I'm also a speech-language pathologist employed by Mississippi Bend AEA since May 2010, and I proudly serve your junior high and high school along with Project Search since 2019-20 school year. I hope to serve your districts until I retire. Your administration has always had my back and supported me in collaboration for student success, and for that I am beyond grateful. I want to appeal to you tonight as both a service provider for your students and as a parent. I'm here to speak to you about the impact of House Study Bill 542. This legislation creates significant cuts to AEA services. As you know, AEAs are regional service agencies that provide equal, efficient, and cost-effective services for Iowa students, families, and schools. This legislation would leave your schools without many services that you currently receive and inadequate monetary resources to replace what is lost. As an SLP, countless AEA resources would be gone that are truly necessary to meet the needs of all students if this legislation passes. Please see the handout I provided you. For example, Media provides our students with the assistive technology loan library. For our non-speaking students, I'm able to get communication devices to them to trial within days, where private providers will take weeks to months to do that. It also ensures the district is only buying what students truly need. These supports make differences for your students. I've also taken many professional training sessions from the AEA's literacy team, dyslexia team, and challenging behavior team. These teams would all be gone if this legislation is passed. These learning opportunities would be gone for both me and your staff as well. As a parent, I want my children to have the best educational experience possible, which is why we live in the Pleasant Valley School District. I want my children to learn in classrooms that have hands-on learning materials. The AEA makes this possible your district without having to come up with additional funding. For example, there's the Star Lab, robotics kits, STEM kits, digital resources like BookFlix, Pebble Go, and Learn 360, and many others. These and other digital resources would be gone and no funding source would be available to replace them. Trust me, my kids and all students need hands-on learning to stay engaged in learning in schools. I urge you to push back on this bill that takes away all these curated resources that the AA has to offer. We work hand in hand with teachers, paraeducators, and administration to support all and provide a level of excellence that our students deserve and expect. We have to raise our voices in opposition of House Bill 542, as many of the most impacted students do not have the ability to raise their own. Was that my timer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? Okay, we'll move on to board members. Mr. Smith.
I got three things. I want to thank the maintenance crew in Leland for getting out in the cold when none of us wanted to be out there. They're out there clearing the drives and the sidewalks and everything for us. So thank you for that. And now, I know with all the different bills going through with the Senate right now, we have Senate File 2011 that's going through for the open enrollment. That's something that we want to keep on the forefront as well, because that's going to change our open enrollment as to when kids can. It's going to give them a window as to when they have to open enroll for the next year. I believe it's from like March to like June or something like that. So that's one thing that we need to keep an eye on. And then also St. Ambrose has a STEAM event on February 20th. It's from 4 to, I think it's 6:30. I've been to it a few times now. It's a great event and recommend students get out there if they're interested in those areas. And that'll pass.
Mr. Kammerscher.
Just well wishes to the girls' basketball team as they face Bettendorf tonight.
Ms. Brockman.
I have nothing this evening, thanks.
Okay. Ms. Wheeler.
I just wanted to recognize the 182 students who participated in the Reflections program. They had their ceremony last week, and it's great to see all of our kids participating and giving up their kind of art ideas, and just wanted to recognize them.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Smith, anything?
I have nothing.
Mr. Hyatt?
Nothing additional.
Thanks.
Ms. Kenyon?
Nothing, thank you.
I will wait on you. Ms. Damon?
Updated personnel agenda, and Jameson, quick question, do you know the date of that STEAM event?
February 20th.
And if you said that, forgive me, I was writing furiously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Struess?
Yes, I do have a few. First of all, I want to welcome Colin Terrell to our meeting this evening as he's working on one of his citizenship badges tonight. He has 5 so far and receives 6 more badges tomorrow night, so congratulations. And I also want to welcome his mother, Kate Terrell, who was actually our Wall of Honor recipient this year. So nice to have you here as well, Kate. Also, as Mr. Smith mentioned, our maintenance team and all the work that they've done the last 2 weeks now with the deep snow to the freezing rain this morning, all those fun things that's go along with that, but also to our bus drivers. If any of you want to see something interesting, drive out in our counties, and there are snow drifts that are taller than myself and narrow roads, and our bus drivers have done a wonderful job. Even with the freezing rain today, they were able to get out and be very careful in what they did. We did have one small accident this morning. Coming down a hill, it was a corner, and our bus driver saw the car coming down very slowly, but the car could not stop. Tapped the back of our bus, which there's no scratch dent on our bus. Everyone's fine, but the car wasn't so fine when it hits a big, heavy tank like a bus. So, but again, they call us and they told us everyone was in and did a great job. So thank you to all of our bus drivers who have to brave some of those elements at various times to make sure our kids are safe to school. The last thing I had Debbie make a copy for you. Speaking of the AEAs, there is a document that has been put together. Just kind of want to mention a couple things about the AEAs because there have been a lot of questions and services. With the original House file bill that was drafted, a lot of it was going to be about special education services being maintained in our schools, with the loss of media educational direct services and also technology services. So what you have here is just the media, technology, and management services that they offer. And I had, Jill, Tony, and myself went through and just highlighted all the ones that we use in those areas, just so you kind of have an idea of the services that they provide to our kids, to make sure they have a successful program every single day in our buildings. So you can see those, kind of walk through, and those are services, the media and the management ones would be the ones that could potentially be lost. After last Wednesday, Thursday's caucus, I believe they're looking at maybe putting the educational direct services back into the bill in some fashion. Don't know that for sure, so keep following that. And then the last page that you have is, because they fall in different areas, but I asked Kevin Pennekamp, our Director of Technology, just to list all the different services or ways that the AEA support our districts. You know, for example, we get our internet comes through them at a cooperative price that's cheaper because of that. But you can also see other things that they do for us. Ms. Kakovich had mentioned some of the books that we get, you know, Pebble Go or BookFlix, those type of things. Again, reduced prices, but you can see a listing of things that would be of question. If people are asking you, that just kind of gives you an idea of the services that are provided by the AEA that make a direct impact on our kids every day, and also for our teachers and our administrators too. So, very gracious for the support they have. It was very fun visiting the state capitol last week, talking to our lobbyists and all of our legislators about this topic, and just the change that, you know, they're listening and trying to figure out what this can look like long term as well. So any support there would be just sharing those ideas with you that we receive from them.
Do we know what the size of the financial impact is here?
You know, so right now, Mike had looked, our flow through dollars are 2.9 million. That's what goes for just a flow through. If it's just special education, I believe it's like 2.3. I double check that number, but it's right around there. And that'd be services, then that money would stay with us to be able to contract special education services wherever that might be. So again, you have to wait and see where that plays out and what that might look like, or what services they continue to allow us to have.
So you're saying $600,000 of flow through is for all the other services that aren't special education?
Correct. I believe that is accurate. We can
So I
double
think
check
my
that for you.
question then is simpler. So taking special education out, the services, if you had to go contract them, is it $600,000? Is it 1.2 million? Is it 500,000?
That's a really good question. I don't know what that would be. You know, when you look at the cost of what, I don't know how they would contract each person out, and try to organize that. I mean, you probably have to hire someone. You're probably looking around 110 plus benefits if you're going to hire somebody in to do that. And then would it be a full-time person, or do you share it with somebody else? You know, do we partner with a Bettendorf or a North Scott? Options. But you know, if you were to do that and school districts can do that by the bill, they could hire out, and they're probably maybe pulling people away from the AEA. My fear with that would be, at this point, if it's for next school year, what does that do to all our neighboring school districts, smaller rural districts, and who's gonna be able to service them? And is that best for those kids? And you look at public schools across the state, you want the best for all kids. And so what can we do that'd be effective for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, I see the first two line items on that back page. And if they take that away from every school district in the state, we just went through a bunch of districts that got hacked and all of the students' very private information made public. Is that what they really want to do? It's a little baffling to me that they would follow through with that.
Yeah, that's cybersecurity. I mean, they were helping us through that process and talking about those things, and those are services that they provide for us.
The firewall
advice.
especially is
Firewall.
what concerns me, so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can I just add, I did a little digging on that too, and just a comparable that we're living right now. Wilson Foundations, we have implemented foundations for a half hour of very important core instruction in our kindergarten through third grade classrooms. And it's $12,500 per school for 4 days, so $3,125 a day for one consultant.
Holy smoke.
Thanks.
That's a reality that you look at. And that price can vary, but that's a reality we're living right now.
And internet would cost us roughly around $15,000 probably. And again, you can't use flow-through dollars for that purpose. You'd have to use your general fund dollars, which now is taking that money away from something else.
And that's really my question. What are we not gonna be doing because the state's made this decision?
That's the question. And I think that's all the question that legislators are trying to figure out right now, state capital, where does this go and what does it look like? From both sides.
And it's generated a lot of discussion throughout the whole state regarding the AEAs. And there's been a lot of school boards, administration, teachers, AEA members who have talked to legislators. So if anybody here is listening and they understand what the AEA does and realize how important it is, then I would advise that you contact our legislators in our area to let them know exactly how you feel about this bill. Because remember, the legislators are elected by us, they're working for us, and they have to understand that if it's gonna affect public education, which a lot of the students, people here have studied the kids in public education, they're not necessarily for it. And so I would really highly recommend that you contact your legislators with this topic if you feel that you are not happy with what's in the bill.
I have not gotten more constituent feedback on any subject than I have on this one.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of traction with
And
the
it's
whole
all been
state
against it.
regarding this.
Clear.
Yeah. And as you guys know, it went from 13 AEAs down to 9 this last year. So they've already consolidated it to 9. They've already reduced it by 4 just in the last year. And so we'll see what happens with that bill. But thanks for your comments and thanks for bringing that up as well, Mr. Struce.
I just looked up the actual numbers for this year. The special ed portion for the AEA is approximately $2,361,000. And the non-special ed portion is $546,520.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Mr. Hyde, did I already go to you or not?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think actually we're left with you, Ms. Buskern.
Save the best for last.
Always, always.
I do have several recognitions, but why don't we go ahead and start with our visitors this evening. Back in October, we recognized the Spartan Shield for their award in journalism and in the yearbook. So if we could have Mrs. Dyer come on up along with her journalism students, that would be wonderful. As they're coming up, just as a reminder, several students attended the Iowa High School Press Association Conference at the University of Iowa. And that organization named the Spartan Shield the 2023 Class C News Team of the Year and the PV High School Yearbook 2023 Yearbook of the Year. And then I'm going to let you go ahead and share the exciting news that you received today. Timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah. So we just got today recognition for being a 2024 SNOW Distinguished Site. And SNOW stands for School Newspapers Online. So it specifically has to do with Spartan Shield Online. And right now there are only 16 schools nationally that have that. So we're pretty excited about that.
So you guys, girls want to go through and maybe share your age, your year in school, and if you're a senior, where you might be going next year, would be greatly appreciated.
I'm Sophia Foad. I'm the co-editor-in-chief of the school yearbook, and I'm a junior.
And actually, if your parents are here, we'd like you to introduce them too.
And my dad is here. Doing homework.
Thank you, Nikhil.
I'm Grace Ludwig. I'm a junior. I'm also the co-editor-in-chief of the yearbook, and my mom is here.
Thank you, Nikhil.
I'm Judy Jepson. I'm editor-in-chief of the online Spartan Shield, and I'm a senior.
I'm Prerna Vanga. I'm a junior, and I'm the assistant editor-in-chief of the Spartan Shield Online.
I'm Laura Chen. I'm a junior as well, and I'm the feature editor of the Spartan Shield Online.
And Jay, you're a senior, so do you know what you're going to do next year?
I'm definitely majoring in journalism, undecided school still.
Does the board have any questions at all?
Yeah, I have a question. I was a sports editor for Yearbook. How many late nights did you ladies spend just before each of the deadlines when you get your prints in?
We've been pretty on top of it this year. We're actually ahead of schedule, I would say.
Wow! Congratulations, that's awesome.
They're not too many late nights.
What, you want to sit down here?
The newspaper's a different story. We're a little behind with that one, but the two print editors-in-chief could not be here tonight, but they do spend some late nights working on that for sure. It's just continued to get bigger. When I took over, it was an actual newspaper, and I just actually had the pleasure of walking Kate through the new journalism lab because she hasn't been there since she graduated in 98.
98, yeah, thank you for that.
Sorry. I'm right there with you. But so we were kind of reminiscing through what the newspapers used to be, and when I took over, we turned it into a 16-page magazine, and now we're producing 36-page magazines every month. So it evolves all the time.
Dara, can you just go through and let us know all the awards that they won this year so far? If you can remember. They've won so many.
So how it works is the yearbook gets individual awards in the fall, and journalism in general, newspaper gets individual awards in the spring. So at the fall conference, we found out all of our individual yearbook awards, and there are over 30 of them. I can't really remember specifically what they are, but we got awards for our cover, our all kinds of different pictures, the writing, layouts, all kinds of stuff. So I don't remember them specifically. Jay is very modest, but she's in the running right now for Iowa Journalist of the Year, and she'll find that out in a few weeks here. But she's done a tremendous job, and we're just really excited for that to possibly come out. And then our spring contests are due in March, and so we'll find that stuff out in April.
Any other questions? Any questions from the board?
This is the first time we've had this young of a staff. I mean, Jay's the only leader who's a senior with us, and it's just really exciting to have the program develop as it has, and now have kids who can become leaders because they've taken the class and have improved their craft rather than just being elected because they're seniors and they want to do it. So.
How many total students are on the staff? Guest writers or whatever that might look like.
So at semester we just switched. So these three continue taking journalism right now, but these two I'm thinking are going to take it again next year. But they just finished honors journalism. So with it being a one semester class, there were just too many to have 2 sections this year. So they had to break it into 3. So now I have a really tiny honors journalism class. But last semester we had 36 or 37, 38 in honors journalism, and then maybe 15 in publications. So in publications we do the print newspaper and the yearbook. In journalism, we do the website.
Well, you know, your success has really it permeates through the whole district when we want student excellence and student success, and you guys are certainly a good example of that. And so not only do you wear this as a badge of honor for yourselves, but it's for the whole district as well. And as you continue to move forward in life, just remember that your communication and your storytelling and all your media coverage is really important. And you can see, at least in this world, how important media is, and telling stories and telling news and giving out information, and just make sure that you explore the truth and then be true to yourself when you do the reporting. That's one of the most important things, because the media is very important in how people get information. So congratulations, and you guys make Pleasant Valley very proud of your continued success, and we wish you the best of luck for your future.
Thank you.
And for the 4 of you, I hope to see you back here next year. Congratulations on this, hopefully honor that you'll be given that opportunity to be that person, and best of luck to you next year wherever you land. I had a chance to visit with your dad the other night, so it was great to catch up with him and hear where you might be going. So, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen, for your time too.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I have 3 more, but I will try to be quick. So, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, Caitlin Chauville, physical education teacher at the junior high, was recognized as Iowa's Shape Teacher of the Year. She's now being recognized nationally. So she was selected as the Central District Middle School PE Teacher of the Year right before our holiday break. So the United States is divided into 5 districts. The Central District includes Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska. So being named the Central District Middle School Teacher of the Year. She's now a finalist for the National Middle School Teacher of the Year with 3 other middle school teachers across the U.S. And the winner is going to be announced during a conference in March, which she will be attending. So I will keep you posted, but
Where will the conference be?
Excuse me?
Do you know where the conference is gonna be?
No, I know it's in driving distance, but I'm not sure the location.
It's wonderful.
I didn't hear the name of the teacher.
Caitlin Schoville. And then the personal finance UNI exam pass rate. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So this is something that our juniors and seniors who are currently enrolled in personal finance participated in. We had our highest percentage participation rate to date. We had 57 students opt to take the exam, which is 73% of our enrollment in that course. And we received our statistics from UNI. So the pass rate for the exam is 70%. Of the students who took it from Pleasant Valley, 88% of those students passed the exam. 80% was their average score, and 25% of those students received a 90% or higher. And when they pass the exam, they get a college credit. I checked into that to see where it transfers to, and it seems as though that every institution will accept it except for the Ivy League level. So that's super exciting, no matter where they go, that they have a college credit because of their participation in the exam and passing. Also, I wanted to give a shout out the Iowa Insurance Division. They actually reimburse the $100 it costs to take the exam. They reimburse it if a student passes and writes a 100-word essay. So huge shout out to them for funding that for many of our students. And then last but not least, I wanted to recognize the students from Pleasant Valley High School who participated in the Ethics Bowl. If you're anything like me, you might not have heard of it before. But just to remind everybody, the National High School Ethics Bowl has been in existence for 11 years, and the purpose is to provide a forum to encourage students to discuss controversial issues in a respectful and thoughtful forum that encourages careful attention to the ethical dimensions of those controversial issues. So Lynn Lemberg is the Ethics Bowl team advisor, and they participated in state this past week. We had 3 teams from PV High School participate, and those teams placed first, second, and third.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Great.
congratulations to them.
Is there another level after that the ethics team, the ethics bowl will
There
go
is a
to?
national competition that the first place team will be invited to attend. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that one.
And the SHAPE conference is in Cleveland, Ohio.
There you go.
Okay, great.
Driving distance.
Yeah, it is. It is driving distance, you're right. Okay, well, moving on, we will go through the, are there any questions regarding this evening's consent agenda? If not, I will take a motion.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Ms. Brockman, to approve this evening's consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we'll go to approval of bills, general fund.
I move the general fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $189,608.05 and payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Kunkel, second by Mr. Ayers, that the general fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nutrition fund.
I move that nutrition fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $89,074.42
Good
and
job.
payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Mr. Smith, that the nutrition fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Elementary junior high activity fund.
I move the elementary junior high activity fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $3,037.80 in payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Brockman, second by Mr. Camershire, that the elementary junior high activity fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? High school activity fund.
I move that the high school activity fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $9,326.68 and payment of invoices presented.
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Ms. Wheeler, that the high school activity fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, PEPAL, or Physical Plant and Equipment Levy Fund.
I move that PEPAL fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $17,187.85 in payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Brockman, second by Mr. Smith, that the PEPAL fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? For those of you who are wondering, I actually sent an email to Mr. Smith because the controller repair, which was for $4,500 to Johnson Controls, was not for Forest Grove. Remember, we had issues with Forest Grove, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't with Forest Grove because I didn't want them to charge us, and it was actually not for them, it was for the high school. So, in case anybody was wondering. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Internal Service Fund.
I move that internal service fund warrant 6572 to 6573 be issued in the total amount of $13,734.50 in payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Camisher, second by Mr. Ayers, that the Internal Service Fund warrant 6572 to 6573 be issued in the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And finally, Trust Fund.
I move that trust fund warrants be issued in the total amount of $489.84 in payment of invoices presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Ms. Brockman, that the Trust Fund warrants be issued and the payment of invoices presented. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, there is no old business, so we will move on to new business. We will do the approval of bids. And I know Leland is gonna be coming up here as well, but.
I sure can. So last Thursday, we had our bid openings for the high school project, which Leland will walk you through the bidders were at the table and the prices and kind of give you an overview of where we came in based upon where we thought it was gonna be. And Mike, if you have any things to share, please do so as well. But this time I'll turn it over to Leland to go through the bid process and where it landed.
So what we've got displayed up here right now is the cost opinion. This was the original estimated cost for the whole project. The construction, all the soft costs for anywhere from the design fees and everything else is in there. So that original fee was expected to be about $35,200,000. So the good news is it came in lower, substantially lower. So I thought it'd be good to review this so you understand where we were at. The architects were surprised by it. We don't know if it's because we were like the first bid of the year and everybody's stomachs were empty, so they all wanted to get work on board. But it's all good for us anyway. And they also told us that they were conservative because the prices have been all over the board, so they were a little bit on the conservative side. But that's what the original cost projection was. The next sheet is the new cost projection. So now we're at $27,364,000. So it's a substantial difference. And everything that's in there, and then nothing's changed. That's just where the bids came in. We had 3 bidders. The 2 low bidders were about $375,000 apart. So we had 2 good prices right at the bottom, which tells you that it wasn't just one guy out here by himself that just forgot something. So the number should be a good number. And we've actually worked with all 3 bidders before. So we've got good relationships with all 3 of them. So this was actually.
What has Bruce Builder done with us in the past?
They're actually currently doing the junior high and Forest Grove.
Are they from, where are they from originally?
Eldridge.
From where?
Eldridge.
Eldridge, okay.
So, and part of so their bid was $22,995,000. Estes was the highest bidder at $25,988,000. And then Tri-Count out of Dubuque was $23,370,000. So Tri-Count is $375,000 higher. Everything's included that if you want, we can review. I don't know if we have those, Heather, of the actual design. So if you have any questions about the design or anything like that, of what it's going to look like. So everything's there. So nothing's changed from it. parts of that in the auditorium gets sprinkled now, it's currently not sprinkled, so that gets sprinkled as part of this project. There's $400,000 in there to upgrade the fire alarm system. There's currently 2 different fire alarm systems in the high school. This will upgrade them both so it's one system instead of 2. It really creates problems because you've got an older system and a newer system, and they really don't talk to each other. So that makes it one system, and it's up to date. There's a new emergency generator that's part of this project. The 1996 generator will be retired, which is good news. And also the centralized phone system is in this building. So that'll also be tied into the emergency generator, which it controls all the phones for the whole district out of that, which is now on the 1986 generator. So we'll be getting that transferred over to something newer. The boiler room on the west side also gets an upgrade along with an additional chiller which handles the chillers for the cooling, and the heating plant for this new addition also gets updated. So, one big one, the west parking lot. That's a huge one. It gets regraded, and most of that west parking lot from the top to the bottom, maybe not the very top along the street, but the whole rest of it, all gets redone. So that's a brand new parking lot down through there with new grading. And at the bottom of the parking lot, facing the south, they have to put a retention pond in for storm sewer. That's required. And then along with that, they'll be redoing the light poles. So we'll have better lighting in that west parking lot. We made that 2-stage, so we have higher lighting. But let's say a football game goes till 10, 11 o'clock for some reason. They can actually dim it down, so you can still have access to get to your car safely, but it's not a bother keeping the neighbors awake. And we're actually looking at maybe doing something like that on the east side too, to try to reduce the issues with trying to be good neighbors. So, any questions?
Was there any speculation as to why it came back so much lower? I mean, I know you said it was the first sort of bid of the season, but where did they overestimate? In what parts of did FIK say, oh, this came down much lower than I thought it was going to be? Do you know, was there certain parts like the materials or the labor costs, or you don't know?
We don't have those breakdowns. We never have had those breakdowns because basically the original cost opinion was based on square footage and just so much per square foot. And they're basing that on work that's being done in this area and work being done in the past in Des Moines. So somewhere the numbers have dropped. And everybody's been waiting for numbers to drop. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I seem to remember Tom saying last time he was here, that I was here, that they were seeing the construction companies' work falling off across the industry.
Yeah, he did mention
So
that.
maybe this is just part of that artifact.
So I think we originally budgeted was at $375 or so a square foot.
Yep.
'Cause it was normal to see like around $275 in that area, but it had jumped up so high. So hopefully this is bringing it back down.
So the parking lot improvements, if you go back. That number that was just there.
It doesn't show up, but it's around $2 million.
Was it 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
For top and bottom,
Yep.
both those lots.
Yeah, that's top and bottom.
Just wondering if was that lower than people expected, or you don't know?
That I know. No, that was real close to what was projected.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because I remember when we were thinking about changing the Hopewell, I remember that it came in really high and we didn't do it.
What was, yes, the new entrance to it.
The entrance, and I was wondering
Yes.
if all of a sudden parking lots are becoming much cheaper, maybe it might be a time to visit that again. But if it came in on bid, then.
Yeah, it was slightly under, but not dramatically.
Okay.
Other than costs, with Bruce Builders cost being the lowest bid, what other factors were taken into consideration when deciding on them, such as, I know Bruce, you said, has done the junior high in Forest Grove, but high school's obviously a larger scope. Do all three have experience with that scope of a construction project? And, they have recommendations where they've done a similar project and have done so in a satisfactory way where we don't run into maybe some of the issues we've had at Forest Grove.
That's a good
I know
question.
we don't have to take the lowest bid anymore, right? There's a new legislation that said, I just want to make sure that we're looking at all things besides just price point.
I would start by saying with Bruce Builders, they've been very good with the work they've done at the junior high and at Forest Grove. Been very pleased with their work. They have a lot of projects going around in the Quad Cities right now. They had the EICC Center over here. They're also doing the project, the juvenile program over on Tremont. That's a part of their project too. So they've done a nice job. Tricon was currently doing, they did Forest Grove for us originally, and Tricon is currently doing the Clinton High School project. So both of them are right in that area, but Bruce Builders has been very, very good to work with from my perspective. With them every other week, I guess, every 2 weeks.
And to be honest, the actual addition on the south part of the building, nobody's really worried about that. It's the cafeteria. All three contractors and the architect are worried about that one. Because it's a very tight, the time frame is very tight. And how do you take a roof off and then put it back on? It's big helicopters.
Yeah, that's what I say, a big crane, really big crane.
Right, no, that doesn't.
You guys remember the last time we did the Pleasant Valley High School renovation? We did it with Bush Construction, and I did get an email today from Bush saying that they would have liked to have bid on it since they know the high school very well as well, but because of a heavy workload and a short timeline and some other factors, with a heavy heart, they had to pass on it, is what they said. But they would have liked to have been in the bidding process if the timeline was different and other circumstances were different. So that's why you don't see Bush up here at all, even putting a bid in, because they wanted to, but then had other factors.
So, I'm surprised that there is, I thought a few more, but.
There's only about 5 that can actually even handle this. There's just Bush is one, and there's one more after that could even handle this. You have trouble getting into the bonding. They can't bond for it because it's too much to bond. And it's that cafeteria, that would back a lot of people off. Do you like skylights in the cafeteria?
So natural.
Open natural.
Yeah, open air concept.
So right now, our next steps, now that we have a price, we can determine what we need to borrow from our save. And we'll bring that, so in our next, we'll have a schedule put together on February 12th to have a public hearing, then on February 26th, so we know what we have to borrow to get everything moving forward now with this next phase, so.
And from what I understand, I think that you still have to take the lowest bid unless there's, like, there might be some exceptions, but in general, I think that we are having to take the lowest bid still, from what I understand. But if there's any other legislation that you know of, please let us know,
No,
because.
I just thought someone had mentioned that.
Okay.
To me, so.
Okay.
There's some situations when you can, if they don't think the one person can perform it, but that's,
So since this bid came in low, I know a lot of feedback that I've gotten from constituents is, especially once we put the new field in, is our locker room situation, our concession stand, and then like hand railings on the bleachers for our side, the home side. Is there any plans in place to improve those, since we're giving our visitors brand new facilities?
It's a great question. So first of all, the visitors will have the new concession stand on that side. We'll still have our concession stand. We met with our coaching staff that would use the facility on the home side if we wanted everyone to make that our home facility. And they chose they did not want to do that at this time. And I remember, whether it's phase 2, phase 3 down the road, we have that where we could add on to our the new gymnasium by the tennis courts there. We can take that wall out, bump that wall all the way out past the tennis courts basically, and then that's where we'd put new home locker rooms at that time. But that project, if I remember correctly, is around $37 million in and of itself to do that phase. So again, it's a one that's down the road. We looked at every option we could with the coaches saying, what would you like to see differently? And they said they'd stay in that one, in our current, underneath the facility right now, underneath the home stands. And then other question you had about the hand railings, we're gonna try to investigate what's the best thing. a number of years ago, I don't know when, we extended the seats so that they could have more seating capacity in the stadium, which then reduced the aisle going up. So we will probably not put a hand railing going up because it really narrows it down. But we tried to find some that we could potentially attach to a seat,
Yeah.
and that's what we're trying to figure out is probably our next step.
Okay, and then also the speaker system. I've heard a lot of complaints about that.
So that could potentially be changing in about a year from now. We may have someone who might be willing to donate a new scoreboard, which would therefore have a whole new sound system incorporated in it. So
Great.
stay tuned on that.
Can I tag along with, okay, so we're way under budget. But I think I may have lost track of what the scoop is with the playground situation. Is that a dollar, I mean, I know about the PTA role, right, and what they're working on. But, we were just whispering, like, is the rollout, the staggered rollout, a dollar issue or a labor issue? I thought it was labor, but I wanted to check.
Yes, I mean, that's probably, well, we are, I would say our next board meeting, probably bringing that to bid, what that would look like with the timeline and so forth. We're working with IMEG right now on that project, trying to get that ready to go out. I mean, I think they're going to basically say, here's 3 schools that we can do now from a timeline standpoint, and then, but have the other 3 kind of as an alternative type opportunity, which I don't think they'll be able to do it in one summer, but we will wait and see. But
FRK will come talk to us about that.
What's that?
Is it FRK will come talk to us
No,
about that?
no,
Not involved.
it's IMEG, and then us internally going through that right now. So we did the RFQ, and we have 3 companies that we're going to select that will probably put in for bid on that. And then we'd look at doing it where they come in and do the whole project basically from start to finish. And we just see what that comes in at with the equipment as well.
Yeah, because basically, so the RFQ is just request for qualification, so you can see who's qualified and able to do it. And they submit a packet of information about themselves and what they envision. And one thing that came forward is, it's so tight, the schedule's so tight, they'd like to be able to control the whole thing. They want to do the site work and install the equipment. That way they can keep their crews just seamlessly going right through the whole project, not having to wait because Brian was doing the site work and that's not ready for them. They have their own control. So that's kind of what we're going through right now is, okay, let's rewrite it, we'll set it up so you can do the first part and the second part together.
Thanks.
And on the timeline, we'll see where they land, but it could be potentially starting those in May before school is out at one of the schools. At least get the site work ready to go, so when June hits and everyone's out, at least one is moving and they keep staying in front of each other.
You mentioned the fire alarm system. With this renovation, it's going to put it all into one system. Right now, the 2 systems are not talking to each other. So when we did the last renovation with Bush, we had the fire system put in there. Is that also going to be replaced, or are they just upgrading the old system into the one that's currently there with the renovation that we just did a few years ago?
As far as I know, it's the new system for the tower. Everything from the old gets put onto that. It has enough capacity. But to do it, they actually have to redo all the wiring for every detector in the old part of the building. It's not just putting the panel in. They're actually going to replace all the wiring and all the detectors and pulse stations in that area too, which is the majority of the building.
Okay.
The one thing that they really run into is the strobes. All the strobes have to sync perfectly together. If they sync randomly, then we don't meet codes, because you have children with disabilities where if they go randomly, they go into seizures. So that's a huge part of it too. It all has to sync together just perfectly.
Other questions at all? If not, then I'm going to open this up to a public hearing.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, yes.
Okay.
Ed.
So, anybody make any comments about the high school construction expansion and renovation project?
What was the original estimate, just to remind me, the estimated value?
35 million or so.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's pretty critical.
Yeah.
That is.
Other questions? Okay, public hearing is over, and with that, I will take a motion.
I move the board accept the low bid from Bruce Builders for $22,995,000 for the Pleasant Valley High School expansion and renovation project.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Kunkel, second by Mr. Canwisher, that the board accept the low bid from Bruce Builders for $22,995,000 for the Pleasant Valley High School expansion and renovation project. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Dean.
Mr. Ayers,
Yes.
Mrs. Brockman,
Yes.
Mr. Canwisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Kunkel.
Yes.
Dr. Wagley.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Wheeler.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Leland, for all your work on that. Next, we're moving on to board policy updates. We have to change or add some other policies after legislation. And so, as you know, with these board policies, we get introduced to it today, then it'll be put on the agenda at our next meeting in the beginning of February, and then we'll finally vote on it at the last meeting in February. So with that, Mr. Struess, you want to go ahead and take over regarding the board
Yes.
policy?
So the first one here is from House File 604 that came out last legislative session, and the Department of Education and the Iowa School Board Association has put together this model policy called Student Conduct and Discipline of Students who make threats of violence and cause incidents of violence. So first of all, what you see in black is our current student conduct policy. What you see in red is really what is coming from the Department of Education and their recommendations as you go through this. When you read through it, I'll start from the beginning, but when you get about page 3, page 4, and page 5, what you will see, what makes this a longer policy, is the actually escalating responses for the 3 levels. And we'll walk through those, so when you read them, you kind of know what you're looking through. But if you start on page 1, basically, when you look at the first paragraph, it just talks about what you're looking for in a school environment. And so they've just changed, we took out the one line there and added the new red that talks about promoting behavior. The second paragraph there really just, instead of being developmentally appropriate in light of the circumstance, they've changed it to be called the tailored to age, grade level, and maturity of the students. So when you're looking at the consequence or misconduct of a student, you're taking those factors into play. The fifth paragraph there just talks about what happens if you have a student who might be serving under IDA or Section 504, making sure that you are meeting those requirements and expectations of the student there. And then on the bottom of that page, it talks about district response to a threat or incident of violence by a student. And that first paragraph really is how it's reported and the timeline in which it has to occur within that 24 hours. Very similar to what we had in Board Policy 100 series when we talked about bullying and harassment and investigating those within 24 hours, or notify within 24 hours. The next paragraph talks about the investigation process. And again, here it's initiated by the principal or lead administrator, and then going through and making sure it talks about how you're considering all aspects of the situation when you're going through looking at the violence or the threat. The third paragraph just talks about, remember, in any time you have a level of discipline that comes into play, there's always escalating levels of behavior that could occur, and that the district always retains the authority to assign the level of disciplinary measure appropriate to the severity of the threat. So it just talks about it in there. And then you see the 4 new, the threat of violence, incident of violence, injury, and property damage, the definitions that they are using. So when you read the policy above, you know how to interpret those definitions. Assault was in our previous, and nothing changed on the assault definition. The incident levels, I'll let you read through these before the next board meeting, but really, when you go through this section here again, you are looking at, you discuss what happened previously also, and look at applying that level accordingly. So it could be based upon how many times it's occurred, or it could be based upon the severity of it. So a PK through 6 level is basically talking about our elementary school. If you read level 1, When you go to level 2, everything, there are just some additions there, like the second bullet. Review of response to prior offense if applicable to inform increased level of response. So if you're going from level 1, now you're going to level 2. You'll also see down the bottom there, it talks about temporary or permanent removal from extracurricular activities, not in level 1. And then permanent removal from class could potentially be an option in level 2. And then you also see the in-school suspensions added, plus the other 2, suspension of transportation and maybe a placement in an alternative learning. So in level 1, you have some different options in level 2, also some repeats. And when you look at level 3 compared to level 2, you're adding out-of-school suspension and also recommendation for expulsion. Otherwise, level 3, again, very similar to level 2, but just walks you through those escalating levels. You can read through 7 and 8, laid out very similar, and then high school 9, 12, again, very similar in terms of how that escalates, and some things stay the same, some things change. When you look at the, underneath that level 3 at the high school, that first paragraph, time frame for determining repeated incidences, again, you may look at a current school year, but again, that timeline or time frame could be adjustable. In other words, depending on what the incident is, you could always go back to the previous year if you felt that that should be considered again into this next situation or next incident. And then talks about maturity of the student, what you look at there, again, various levels of things that professionals would look at or the licensed employee might look at to determine what's the maturity of the student. And then the last one there is consideration for determining whether off-campus threats of violence or incidents will go directly affect the good order, efficient management, or the welfare of the school. So if something's happening outside of school, you will see the 3 bullet points there that you would utilize to help determine if there would be a consequence within school as well. On the last page, you see definitions. The first one's detention, probation, and suspension, nothing changes. You will note there's a couple things in red there underneath in-school suspension. This was not in the DE policy, and it was not in the IASB joint policy that they have, but this is something that we have always done as a district, is that when it comes to in-school suspensions, we typically keep those at 3 consecutive days. And out of school, we typically keep those at 5 consecutive days. Could it go over? Yes, but in those situations, there has to be a reason why. And typically the administration of the building would talk to us, here in this and make a reason why it should be more than that. We've always tried to keep it at 3 and 5 for out of school suspensions. And typically if it's more than a 5-day out of school or a 5-day out of school, sometimes they may have to come here and have a meeting with their parents, myself, and whoever else might be involved with that as well. Just to walk through what does the proactive measure look like when they return. The other one that is new that was not in our policy before was placement in an alternative learning environment. A couple things, one for us there could be like at Edison Academy might be a situation depending upon what the situation of the student. If it's a safe environment for them there, that could be a case. And then the last couple ones were just things they took off there in terms of things from our policy that they did not list in the DE policy. When you look at those levels that you see there, we would put those in our upcoming, we always do handbook changes. We would incorporate those into our current handbook as well. When you look at those levels and read what our current levels are, they're very comparable from one to the next. But those would go in there as well here in the near future. So really that's that policy. Take it, read it. Any questions you have, you can do those, email me, or you can bring it up next time, next board meeting too. But again, straight from pretty much from the DE with the House file change that came about last fall. Before we go into the 800 series, I do want to bring up at our last board meeting, Doug and Jameson, you guys both had some questions regarding 603.13. That was our internet policy for the CIPA that we are applying for our E-rate. We've been working with IASB. We're still waiting for one more response to come back from them on that. And then we'll bring that back at our next board meeting again to go through some of those items, what IASB is saying and what our policy says and how to move some of those things forward from the questions you guys had last time. So deliberately not bring it tonight, we're still waiting for that response. Okay, this next one here, we, as mentioned in one of our last meetings, we talked about the state school safety improvement program that we've applied for that grant. And they had reviewed our plan and they came back with some things that we have to include in that as well. So part of it was some updates to board policy since we've updated our 800 series. So I'll walk you through these and then we can submit these for the grant here in the near future. But first of all, the purchase bidding one that you see here, this is currently our 803.1 with updates to it. So we will take out our 803 and put this one in its place. We did not label it 803, but we will when we go through and do our whole 800 series. We'll renumber all of these so they fit in like they should. A couple things that we would see here that might be different would be the second bullet, or the first, second, and third bullet when you look at the goods and services up to, in terms of amounts you could have, 20,000 for the first one, 75 for, or 50, and then 75 is what the next one would be. So you can see how those increase in terms of when we need to, the steps we need to follow for those goods and services. Public improvement, this is more the bid process, which we've seen before. And typically, I believe right now in the state of Iowa, the bid for competitive bids or competitive quotes is around $196,000 or $200,000, I think. Might be that number.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is.
Somewhere in that number, we need to do competitive bids. So we always follow those if we're in a situation where we're doing a large purchase such as that. So that is that one there. The next one, the 808.01R1, this one just really talks about purchasing and making sure when you're looking at, when you're doing quotes or bids or who you're working with, that second line, that they're not debarred for anything that they've done illegally or they're suspended or otherwise excluding them from eligibility. We don't want to bring a company in that you can't work with. So that really lays that out. And that's just, again, that's straight verbiage from IASB and from the federal government, what has to happen. The purchase bidding using federal funds in procurement, the third one here, the 01R2. Again, as you read this, you'll see this has a lot of subpart sections. But, you know, it, for example, conflict of interest, affirmative action, instances if you have someone who breaches or violates a contract, that lays it all out there. Equal employment, contractors and what they're being paid, contract hours and safety, clean water, Federal Water Pollution Act, debarment and suspension. So again, it's just, these are the acts that you have to follow when going through that. So those are straightforward from the governmental process. 808.02 is just expenditures for a public purpose. Again, just making sure that when we're purchasing things that we're always transparent and we're managing money and spending public money in a way that's responsible. And then also this third paragraph there, third paragraph talks about developing a process for approving expenditures of public funds like we do here, situations like that. And then all purchasers or persons shall comply with applicable laws, board policies, and district accounting requirements. It just says what we must do in each of those situations. So you can read that one. Internal controls, 809.01, as you read this one here, this just really talks about, again, that the board, all of you are entrusted with public dollars and no one's connected with the school district should do anything to erode that trust. Talks about our audit process, what we do every year, which Mike's team does a phenomenal job, and the auditors come back and always have a clean bill there. So again, talks about that process. And then if there's a complaint, how that complaint is brought forth and what that would look like. So, and the last one, internal controls, again for procedures. You can see all the bullet points that you need to follow if there was fraud, financial improprieties, or fiscal irregularities are included. So you can see who has to report that, how it's reported, and again, it's just the process you must follow in any of those situations. So, Mike, anything you would add in any of those that you can think of?
No, you did a good job covering it.
So,
Here are the questions right now. Okay, so remember, this will give you time to at least look at it, digest it, and then at the next meeting, we can talk about it in detail as you guys have, people have questions. Remember also that when you read through this, If there are any grammatical errors, please bring that to the attention of Ms. Damon, because she always appreciates that as well. Yeah, exactly, so we can get it fixed. Okay, so there's no motion required on that.
And some of these are new, so there'll be a 3-read,
Yeah.
3 board meetings.
Yeah, so next, we'll talk about it a little more next time, but then it'll be approved at the 26th, February 26th meeting. All right, moving on to the December monthly financial reports, Mr. Klingsmith.
All right, you have a copy of that in the board information. We're halfway through another fiscal year already. Here at the end, this report for the end of December. Everything continues to track where I would expect it to be at this point in the fiscal year. Our ending fund balance in the general fund as of the end of December of 2023 is $18,154,699. That's about $1.7 million or so above where it was a year ago at this time. So, as I said, everything's tracking where I'd expect it to be halfway through the fiscal year. Nothing stood out to me as unusual on the monthly financials this month. So, if anybody has any questions, I'd take any questions.
Any questions regarding the financial reports? Great, as long as there's nothing out of the ordinary, that's great. Okay.
And since this is the end of December, it's the end of a quarter, so you did have the additional reports and the supplementary information, I know. Doug had a question regarding one account that was on there related to.
It's titled parent. I got a
Yeah,
little concerned
on the
about
report,
that.
all it said was parent, and I explained to him that it was the account that is used to account for parent reimbursements related to two different things, non-public transportation reimbursements, which we've talked about those in the past. That's money that comes through us, but then gets passed through, we're just a flow through to parents who have students in the district who are attending a non-public school can file to get reimbursed for some of those transportation costs. And again, we don't make any money or lose any money aside from the labor of processing the checks and stuff. And then the other thing that shows up in that account is we have some parents in the district who transport their special needs children to school. And it's situations where I believe it's less expensive to handle it that way than to try to add a special route or something like that.
And to hire like a para-educator that would be needed on the bus for the students.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that hits this account that question that all it said was parent on the financial reports. And the state is the one who actually, if you look up the chart of accounts requirements for the state for that code, all it says is parent also, so we were just following the state guidelines there.
You know, all our pass-through stuff put together doesn't amount to more than like a quarter-hour FTE, does it? Thinking about AEA pass-through also,
Mhm.
we have other pass-through activity. Is it just not, it's such a tiny amount that it doesn't amount to a quarter FTE?
Yeah, compared to the AEA stuff, it's real significant.
Yeah, thanks.
So with the changes that have occurred with the certified, you know how with the whole open enrollment, where people, they can just open enroll at any time. So who keeps track of either money going out or money going in? Because I know that can be an accounting nightmare depending upon how much flux there is with regards to the enrollment. So who in the administration is doing that, and how is that being monitored to make sure that we are obtaining every dollar for every kid that comes in, especially after the certified enrollment? I know it can be very confusing. Deb.
Of course, Debbie keeps track of the paperwork regarding open enrollment. But then Lori Wakeland, our district accountant.
So she makes sure that the money is coming in.
Well, actually, I do that too.
Well,
I bill and I review bills when I see.
Okay. Just make sure that there's a organized process, because it can be so confusing, and we want to make sure we can get every dollar that we.
And they keep changing bills. Lori does special ed.
Okay.
And I do gen ed.
Okay.
I apologize, I knew Lori was involved, because she's more involved with the special ed part of it, but.
Thank you for your work on that, appreciate it. Okay.
And earlier, Jameson mentioned the idea with the open enrollment and the date. Right now, there's no deadline date for open enrollment, and one of the things that's being discussed is, do they take it back to a March 1st deadline date or an April 1st deadline date? Again, just being discussed, but they'll see Just because when it's wide open, there's just struggles from staffing to movements. They're trying to figure out what's the best time to make that happen. So follow that House file bill.
I did see a bill being introduced regarding the start date. I think that has been introduced in legislation.
Correct.
But as long as the state turns over, it can be started following that.
The conversation last week was, right now, you could start school on the Tuesday after the state fair. So it wouldn't have to be a 23rd. Yeah, it could be any day as long as it's Tuesday, so not the Monday before. I think that's the way it's written. That's at least what we're talking about.
Any other questions regarding the financial reports? If not, I will take a motion.
I move the board approve the financial report for December as presented.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by Ms. Kunkel, that the board accept the monthly financial reports for December as presented. Roll call vote, please, Mrs. Damon?
Mr. Ayers?
Yes.
Mrs. Brockman?
Yes.
Mr. Canwick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kunkel?
Yes.
Dr. Wadley?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Wheeler?
Yes.
Okay, future dates. So Monday, February 12th, there's our next Board of Education meeting. And that one, because of the winter band concert, is going to be at 5:30, everybody. And I'll try, or Ms. Damon will try and remind everybody about the 5:30 start date, or 5:30 start time. Then Monday, February 26th, there will be another board meeting in February, and that's at 6 p.m. And then we have the Iowa Association of School Board Day on the Hill event. So there's a pre-training webinar on January 30th at noon, and then another pre-training webinar on February 7th at noon about the state of the budget. And then finally, the Day on the Hill is Tuesday, February 13th at the State Capitol. Is anybody planning on going to that at all? I know Brent's been there in the past.
I have. I will not be attending.
Okay. Anybody else who was planning on going?
I've gone in the past, but I'm.
Yeah, that's right, you've gone as well, Molly, okay. So if you want to go, should we let you know, Deb? Okay, I know for those of you who've gone, I know that you've had some really good discussions with the legislators on that. About the different needs that our district has, so thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
think
being
it's-
the past.
I think it's more important than ever because, you know, just all the things going on, it's really important that there's a voice out there to discuss
Right.
what's going on at Pleasant Valley and how it affects us personally.
Sure.
I think the face-to-face communication with them is important in the whole process of being able to bring information to them.
Especially since all the superintendents were just there this last week doing that, so then to have the board members go and kind of echo the same comments really makes it more meaningful. So if anybody can go to that, I'll be out of the country, but if anybody can go, that would be great. Just let Ms. Damon know.
And Nikhil, if I may, I think the pre-training webinars would be really useful and they're free. So you don't have to commit to going to the conference, but you can have a look at those webinars just to kind of get you up to speed on what's happening and remind you of some good luck.
And those, we have to register for those, correct? No, we can just go online, just jump right online.
Go online,
Okay.
ISB website and go there.
Okay, I think it's gonna be recorded as well, do you know, so we can watch it later?
That's a good question, I'll find out.
I know they've recorded them in the past, so, yeah, okay. Great. Is there anything else for the go to the order?
Just the concert next time, I think, is a district choral fest.
Oh, District Choral Fest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
District
not
Choral.
the winter band case, it's a District Choral Fest.
At the Mark.
But is District Band, are we still doing that at the,
Vibrant Center.
Yeah, Vibrant
Vibrant Center, whichever name, yes,
Yeah.
Vibrant Center.
Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, if there's anything else for the go to the order? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.